what are we missing as a nation? Because it's a conversation I feel that we never talk about. We come here and say police are misbehaving, or the people are provoking. Somebody is not is neglecting their duties. But what are we missing as a nation, as a country, to foster a working police service?
Interesting question, very, very complex question, I must say. But I'm glad that you asked it, because these are the kind of questions we as Kenyans must begin speaking about and with each other. One of the things you've talked about is what I call the trust deficit between the people and those that keep them safe. And we need as Kenyans first to appreciate that this is a disciplined force. It is paid for by our taxes. However, it has key responsibilities and mandates, and it functions in a certain way. Given that kind of understanding, we also have a responsibility to work with the police service. That's why it's a people service. It's meant to be a service, not a force. And I know the difference has never been clear because the behaviors and habits have not changed. However, from the people, our responsibilities are, one, to understand their role and how the police should conduct themselves. When we have that understanding, we are placed better to engage them. Number two is to track and also report incidences. All right? And then number three, which is really critical, especially in the area of work that I work on, around human rights and freedoms from torture, prevention of torture, enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings, is if, for example, we have the protest that people utilize as a right to express themselves, there is a code of conduct that has been set for the rights holders, the people themselves. You're notifying the different offices, you're being organized and going onto the streets, following the routes that you have planned for, behaving in a certain way. And we know that Kenyans, when you actually talk about protests, Kenyans have been peaceful protesters. What has happened, and I really believe in that because I've been on the streets and because a lot of people I engage are on the streets as peaceful protesters. What happens is that we now allow, and the police system allows, infiltration through hired goons, through criminal gangs that come and infiltrate. So the responsibility of the Kenyan at that point is obviously to report this and make sure that it reaches the ears of the security enforcement. But then for the security service, the police force, because they're the people with authority, power, and control, they have a bigger responsibility and a bigger mandate and are accountable to the people of Kenya and to the Constitution. And so they must behave in the way they are expected to behave. And that is defined in the standing orders, it is defined in the Constitution, it is defined in the different acts. And so one of the ways that they can actually start building that trust within people, one is being responsible for their actions. For example, when there's an extrajudicial killing, do not cover it up. Ojwang's case, which you've just mentioned, is a classic case. Somebody is arrested on the 6th of June. On the healthy. On the 8th of June, the person dies. And the person has died, is killed. Thank you. Is killed in a confined space, a holding cell. Now, the police, and what we have seen, this is an ongoing case, but allow me to just speak about it because it's in the public domain. Now, the police, not one person, several people work together to cover it up. That means even saying that I was under instructions has completely gone out of the way. You're willfully, consciously, intentionally concealing a crime. That makes you a criminal yourself at that very point. So all these people, and it's not one person, so you can imagine how much effort it took for them to sort of come up with cleaning the scene of crime. The police are number one supposed to protect the scene of crime. So that holding cell was a scene of crime at that point. Ojwang himself, the late, his body was a crime scene. It was tampered with, So I don't know what kind of training we keep talking about to do the right thing. So that's one of the things. So don't conceal evidence, don't tamper. it is practical. It is so simple in the books. If you read the services standing orders, it is so clear. Number 2, the supervisor and supervisors. So if it's your supervisor who ordered you to clean, then use your conscience and report, whether it's during, if you're not able to at that point, report after to the supervisor of the supervisor and say, this is what I was asked to do, report it. Remember, we have investigative arms that are provided. We have the Internal Affairs Unit, we've got IPOA, we've got the National Police Service Commission, each with distinct roles in terms of the investigative orders and the actions they can take. So there is a process of reporting. We also talk of whistleblowing, for example. You know, there are so many mechanisms that you can use to report crime. So don't lie to yourself that because an order was given, you're not criminally responsible and liable. In fact, you can see from the officers now, they're in court alone, you know, and it will catch up with them. So you're going to go in for murder simply because you took an order that was unlawful and you knew it, you did not report, you actually committed a crime, and the crime now is murder.
Yeah.
So there are many processes and there are many